I'm Indian. And in India, most major decisions are made by consulting an astrologer. Right? If you're going to get married, you ask an astrologer. If you want to name your child, you ask an astrologer. And in fact, if you want to start a business, you ask an astrologer. And the astrologer, like this guy in the middle, consults ancient scrolls, or in fact, animal spirits, and sometimes even magic to intuitively gander into the future and make a prediction. It's a cultural thing. So you might think that, okay, it's a very individualistic thing. Obviously, businesses don't do that, right? Yet, I can tell you, I worked in a business that had an astrologer on payroll. Yes, and the MD would consult the astrologer whenever he had to make a large business decision. So you might sit there and say, okay, surely this has to be unique. I will never do something like that, right? You're wrong. We all do it. I do it. You do it. Most businesses do it. Most businesses still use human intuition to make a big decision. It's not an astrologer, but it's the same thing. So my question to you for this talk is, wouldn't it be a good idea to use predictive analytics to either support or in fact refute your business decisions? Keep that thought in mind. I'm Chandan Rajah. I'm going to talk to you about business change through predictive analytics. Please feel free to tweet throughout this session. If you want to connect with me, find me on LinkedIn. What I will talk to you about today is, first of all, what are the drivers for business change? I will try to talk to you about what sort of predictive analytics we are talking about, and I will try to draw a correlation between the two with the backdrop of ShopDirect's story. I will try to take you through our journey and how predictive analytics has helped us. So firstly, who are we? Who knows who ShopDirect is? A show of hands. Excellent. It's much better than the other room. So we are the second largest pure-play digital retailer in the UK. We are a 1.8 billion company. We grew our profits 78% last year, and a greater part of that can be attributed to our data-drivenness, our ambition to become more data-driven. We have over 1 million visits a day from 4+ million users, so that's at least a quarter of our base visiting us, if you want to put it that way. We do have primarily a greater part of our sales is on mobile now. It's 59%. We shuffle around about 48 million products a year, so we are quite massive in that scale. We are driven to become world-class through one single vision, and that vision is to make good things easily accessible to more people. And by good things, we mean better brands. We have 1,100 world-class brands in our portfolio. By easily accessible, it's all about the analytics that we have and all about making it available to the customer. We have 5,800 click and collect stores where people can go and pick things up, so they don't have to wait for us to deliver it when they're out of their house. And the more people part is what most people don't know about ShopDirect. We are UK's largest lender of unsecured loans. Our ambition is to get our customers to get what is unaffordable attainable, to make what is unaffordable attainable for them. All right, on that note, here's my presentation. So the first piece is, why should business change? What are the drivers for business change? Right? Some of you might be in a very luxurious situation where you're a monopoly. But for other people, there's competition. In fact, in our world, whenever we do something, we fight against other retailers to grab market share. Right? The first of these drivers that we look at is technology. We were a catalog retailer. We are a digital retailer today. The internet came along in our 84 years of history. Right? We have been around for 84 years, and we've seen many changes, the telephone, internet, television, all of those things, right? The second of them is growth. If you're a retailer like us, which aspires to grow at 20% year on year, which we are trying to do, you have to somehow change your model to capture business and capture market share from other players in the market. So that's number two. The third of them is the customer needs itself. 84 years ago, or in the past, when we were a catalog retailer, our customers were happy to look at a catalog every 6 months, make an order, and wait a month or so to receive products. Today, our customers expect to make an order on their way to work and wear the clothes that they ordered the next day to work. right? It's a significant change. The third of this is if you want to disrupt a traditional business model, think Netflix, right? You want to disrupt a traditional model, you have to change and do something. For us, this is key as well. We try to look at ourselves, introspect to see how is it that we differentiate ourselves from the other pure play digital retailers. What is it that we can do that's different? What sort of technology you can use? What sort of business model we can use to change ourselves? And lastly, of course, is the macroeconomic changes, right? The recession hits, damn, what do we do now? The weather changes, it's a particularly warm winter. Our sales drop in winter collection, what do we do, right? We have to think about all these things. What we've realized is some of these things can actually be predicted, right? Some of these things can be predicted, and some of these things, by predicting them, we can get ready to address these things, all right? So that brings us back to the next topic, actually. So what is predictive analytics? What is this vague topic that we speak about, right? It's very simple, really. We've been doing it for years. We just haven't realized it, right? The first of them is regression. Everyone must know what regression is, right? It's the simplest of all predictive models. This is where most companies start. We still use this quite heavily today. And it's quite simple. It's like predicting what would the demand look like for us for a particular clothing line if the weather changes by X, by X degrees. What will happen if the precipitation increases? What happens if there's an event? What happens compared to last year, right? What's going to happen in the future? How much is the demand going to be impacted if we had additional marketing activity? With this also goes hand in hand is classification, right? A customer lands on your website. Where do you put them? Which bucket do I put this customer in, right? What sort of segment do I obviously can't treat them on a one-to-one basis all the time. It's very expensive. So I've got to figure out a way to put them in a bucket. So classification goes hand in hand with this. Or, in the business term, segmentation. Landing a customer in the right segment and treating them according to the segment that you've landed them in. The second is where it gets really interesting. It's the what-if analysis. It's like, what if I increase my marketing spend on the PPC channel by 10%? Will my ROI increase, decrease? Will my sales increase, decrease? And how much will that increase or decrease by? What if I reduce spend on TV advertising and put it in a different channel? How is that going to be impacted? What if I increase my delivery window from 4 hours to 6 hours? What's that going to impact on sales, right? Price sensitivity analysis comes into this. What if I increase my price by £1? How much of quantity will I drop, right? The third of them is what we are aspiring to do in this decade. For us, this decade is the decade of personalization. We want to be able to give a customer a one-to-one service that they would receive as if they walked into a physical store, all right? We have our hands tied behind our back. We do not have physical presence. We are a pure play digital retailer. The tangibleness of our products goes away. Our customers can't feel it, right? Our customers can't smell the atmosphere. They can't sense the illumination, the ambience, right? What can we do about it? So that's our focus for this year. And the last is deep learning. So we want to go beyond the art of the possible. We want to look at, does the color of a particular dress mean something different to the sales conversion? Is the model in that dress, does the model in that dress impact how that particular dress converts? What about the way we position the UX on the screen? Does that have something to do with conversion? So we haven't got here yet. We aspire to be here, and I think most people do as well. It'll be interesting to see now that Google has open source TensorFlow, what's coming up in our domain. So it is a journey. Going through the journey, for a company to start from having data to becoming predictive analytics savvy, it's a journey. You start with what the hell just happened, right? It's reporting. We're all doing that. It's like, oh my God, sales dropped. What the hell just happened? Do I know that it dropped, right? The second thing is to investigate, why did it happen? We do a little deep dive analysis. It's business intelligence, right? This is what it's all about. Yes, it went down. Why did it go down? Was it because something happened? Was it because of the weather? Was it because we had the wrong text describing the product? What was it, right? So this is the second stage of the journey. The third stage is the important one, which I'm going to talk about today, is when is it going to happen next? All right, can I identify when is it going to happen next? And finally, if I know when it's going to happen next and why it happened, can I make it happen? How do I actually make this happen? The incremental value through these stages is nearly exponential, right? It goes up in a dramatic curve. We as a company are just on the other side of when is it going to happen next. We use predictive models to understand quite a lot of things. Right? Our journey isn't over. We aspire to be a world-class digital retailer by nailing the how. How do I make this happen? What sort of triggers do I use? Is there an emotional messaging that I can have in my ad campaigns that would trigger a buy? So if you look at this, we talked about incremental value, but again, value is one of those intangible things. So what we try to do as a company, we try to synthesize down. We experiment on everything. We measure everything. We are a digital retailer. That's what we do. It's our bread and butter. We measure everything. So the first metric we look at is what sort of revenue uplift has it had, a particular piece of work that we do. We do active A and B testing. We run about 100 A and B tests a month, so we are quite good at what we do. We test our predictive models against the current status quo. We try to investigate future models by looking at the current status quo. And obviously, the number one thing is demand. Can we increase our revenue, our top line increase? The second is, can we be agile to what's happening in the market? All right? Can we be agile to looking at things that are not revenue driven? It's about agility. It's about looking at our competition and saying, hey, for Black Friday, it was one day last year. Now it's a Black Friday fortnight. Is it going to be a Black Friday, a Black November next year? What can we do about it, right? The third of them is customer engagement. We have a UX lab that's award-winning in the industry. It's about making sure that our customers spend as much time as possible on a website. When you get a customer into a physical store, it's a different thing. All right? They see one product and they jump to the next. They wander about the store and they browse. When they are online, the shop window is about that big, right? It's about capturing the attention in there as much as possible and making sure that they spend more time on the website than they normally would. Because once they bounce off and they've gone to their Twitter account to make a post about this conference, they're not coming back to our store again. And lastly, it's about being more efficient. It's about increasing our bottom line. As you saw, we have gone 70% up from last year in our bottom line. Right? It's not an easy thing to do. It's a phenomenal ask. So we look at various parts of an organization and try to measure efficiency and try to become better at it. We try to predict things. We try to predict efficiency hurdles and try to work on them beforehand. So if you look at our story and how predictive analytics has helped us, we started in 1890s. That's when the first stores were created. That's a hell of a long time ago. And obviously, there was no predictive analytics there. In fact, there's probably no analytics there to begin with. Right? Our stores got set up. By the 1970s, we were a home shopping type outfit with the catalog retailer. In the 70s, we pioneered prospect prediction. We looked at the electoral roll and we tried to identify which people should we send this expensive catalog to. Should we actually invest these pounds in printing this catalog and sending it to them, or should we just ignore a certain audience, right? By the next decade, we had telephone ordering. We started then talking about pioneering credit scoring and risk prediction. We are an unsecured lender. We are the largest unsecured lender in the UK. For us, this was a clincher. It suddenly reduced our risk portfolio dramatically by just doing basic risk prediction. We go into the 90s. In the 90s, we launched e-commerce. When we launched e-commerce, things digital came to be, like online targeting, online marketing, retargeting, so on and so forth. So we started doing predictive modeling on that. So we started doing campaign modeling. How will the campaign performance look like? Who should we target? What sort of channels should we use? What is the ROI on these channels? We started doing things as well as response prediction. What sort of response we can predict, so what sort of money we can invest. Today we call that real-time bidding. But in those days, it was just campaign modeling and response prediction. By 2000s, very.co.uk launched. We became much better at what we do. We were able to predict customers' lifetime value based on their past action. Today, we're able to predict the moment a customer lands on our website, we're able to predict what is the potential value of that customer into the future and offer them preferential treatment if they have higher value, right? Similarly, we're able to look at our customer. If a customer calls up and says, hey, I've lost my good in transit, we're able to look at it and say, this customer is of high value. Perhaps we should just refund the money without even asking a question. Whereas if I were to call up, perhaps they'll investigate it. But we also pioneered ensemble methods. It wasn't called ensemble methods back then, but we pioneered them. Today, our focus is on personalization. In this decade, we are going to focus highly on personalization. We are going to look at price elasticity in more detail and try to build predictive models around that. And we are going to do a lot of customer value projection in different dimensions. So this is our story. What I wanted to take you through was, in the next slide, was a short video of where we kind of are today and where we aspire to be in the near term. So this video talks about the customer front end. It talks about the future of customer management and how we expect to engage with our customer and what sort of things predictive analytics will do to make that happen.
A bullseye Miss Very prospect, Emma, visits Facebook. A lookalike model identifies her as being in the sweet spot for Very, and she is served a Very ad within her Facebook session. She clicks through, successfully applies for an account, and makes her first purchase. And so, the data collection process begins. Emma revisits Very later that week, and we recognise her and serve up a personalised greeting. Behind the scenes of this, and other interactions with Emma, data is being collected all the time. How she's navigating the site, what products she's looking at, what she's buying, how she chooses to pay for the goods, how she manages her account. This data is the lifeblood of our data scientists. They use it to build a whole suite of models and segmentations that provide deep insight into our customers. These insights provide the fuel for our decision engine, which is then used to drive future customer interactions. Our customer Emma starts searching for dresses, and we use the decision engine in real time to present the dresses she sees in the order most relevant to her, considering data such as preferred color, size, and style, and also in-session data that gives clues to her motivation. Emma looks at a dress, adds it to her basket, but then leaves the site without completing her purchase. Although she's dropped out of the funnel, there is still value in this interaction through the data we have collected. We now understand more about her promotional and product propensities, her predicted lifetime value, her personal headroom, and also our own internal insight like product stock information. This data is used to update our models and segmentations, providing even deeper insight. Our decision engine now retakes center stage, deciding on what action we should take next. Based on our understanding of Emma, the engine recommends an email, push notification, and off-site retargeting approach, reminding Emma of the dress she's left in her basket. Emma clicks on a link in the email she receives, returning to the Very site. She's greeted with personalised content and a further reminder of the dress she previously added to her basket. We're monitoring her on-site behaviour throughout, looking for triggers that suggest her likely intent and updating other data, like stock levels, in real time. In this case, Emma has spent too long on the site without checking out. Our decision engine recognises this in real time and also calculates that Emma has a high enough potential value to warrant a discount offer to persuade her to check out. This does the trick for Emma, and she completes her purchase. Our decision engine then decides on the right products to display as Emma's personal recommendations, which we suggest to her in an email and present to her the next time she visits us. And so, the virtuous cycle continues.
So, to recap, the early part of this century, 2003 to 2007 onwards, it was survival-led. It was the world had changed. We were a catalog retailer. The world had changed. It went digital. We had to respond to it very quickly, and as a business, change very quickly. We changed, not quick enough. By 2007 to 2012, the next 5 years, we realized that we were not quick enough, and we spent a greater part of our energy becoming purely retail, purely digital. Today, we are a 100% digital company. We grow at 20% a year, which is significant for any digital retailer. And a greater part of this has been harnessed through predictive analytics, but not only predictive analytics, just through analytics in general, and about valuing our data as our crown jewels, as opposed to forgetting about it. The last is just a few words of wisdom from an illustrious career in analytics that I've acquired. So it's a few things. The first thing, for example, is there is a time value to data. Acting on data from yesterday today is more valuable than acting on it in a week. Similarly, acting on data, a larger volume of data is more valuable than a smaller volume of data. If I've got 84 years of history, it's certainly more valuable than having a week's worth of history. The second is, not all roads lead to Rome, right? Sometimes predictive models are wrong. Garbage in, garbage out. What we do is to identify and understand that not all roads are going to lead to Rome and experiment on everything that we do. Whatever we do, we try to run an A/B test with the status quo to know that whether it's better, worse, or in fact it is performing at all. The third of them is knowledge is power. Whatever knowledge you can gain from the data, today we talk about data maturity models and so on and so forth. But the key thing is that if you were to get the data into information, which is where most companies stop, if you were to just take a small leap to the knowledge part or try to understand what's going on there, may it be the what or the why, that value is quite much more significant than anything else. And even those small bits of knowledge can be used in your particular industry, your particular company, to gain competitive advantage and to gain market share. The last of all is, I'm an individual, you are an individual, each and every one of us are. So why do we not treat our customers as individuals? We tend to treat them in a unified way. We have realized that just by personalizing slightly, not even on a one-to-one level, but personalizing on a segment level, gives us a significant uplift in our revenues. And on that note, thank you very much. Feel free to contact me or tweet or any of the like.